A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams. Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet. Stood out towards me.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
Magic Button. That should be the name of a strip club, I think.
This gotta be. It's gotta be somewhere.
It has to be, right? Yeah. I mean, it really does.
Does it seem? Obviously, I think it has, right? But like, strip clubs are not like a thing anymore, right? I know they still exist, but like, man, when I moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it was like it's seemingly the heyday of the last, I don't know, like maybe hurrah of like of strip club culture. Like I lived in Lower Greenville. Like
right.
there was a strip club. You couldn't throw a stone without hitting a strip
club.
It
was like every block.
Yeah, now it's a Central Market. Like I mean, there used to be one of the biggest like men's strip clubs. Strip Club 4, like Le Bear was strip club with men inside of it. Right. I mean. It's a weird way to describe this at all because that are stripping. The performers are men.
Right. So it was a strip club. Well, for
men by men.
Right. I was going to say like for women and other men, perhaps.
Right. And then like there used to be one like it's like Greenville was just like lousy with them, and then you'd go into downtown Dallas and like you get closer to like the airport. And of course, that's when it got to be a lot as well. And then you went over to like 35, kind of North 35 before you got to 635, and there was the high dollar ones there. It wasn't Spearmint Rhino at that time; it was something else. And maybe they still exist, and maybe it's just not a thing that I the only one I ever see though, I guess, is one off of 30. It's like an all nude place in Mesquite, which is very fitting and creepy.
Yeah,
but like I think for the longest time, Mesquite was like a dry county, and so that may have been the reason why that it was an all nude place because all nude places are they don't serve alcohol. They just
serve juice.
Yes, they serve juice.
Yeah. But no, I don't see nearly as many strip clubs as I used to. Right, just kind of driving down, the street, especially back when I lived in Indiana or in Indianapolis. It was just kind of like lousy with them. I don't know. But I mean, that might also like say a lot about the areas I was hanging out too.
Right. I used to go to Austin because I went to school in San Antonio. I used to go to Austin, and there was always one, and even in San Antonio, there was always like a random one just thrown in somewhere in some shitty neighborhood, right? Some low rent, dive strip club, which was
yeah.
And then like I wonder if is the and again I'm not going to do any research and I don't really care, but like is the millennial or is that a group of people that is befriended and continued the strip club? Because when you see something like a Nora, but like I mean like but like I don't know there's got to be places in like the major metropolitan places that are like a Nora, but I mean are there really like in small town Americana are there still like places you can go?
What you're asking is the generation like below us, are they at say like 12:30 at night on a Saturday saying, "Hey, do you want to go to the strip club?" Right? And then just popping over to like their local strip bar. Right?
Is there
Yeah.
a bro culture that like survived the Jersey Shore wave that is still like going. It's not going to Vegas or like I know that that's a whole. I mean, I know that I would assume that's a thing there, right? And what I'm asking is like someone that from HarperCollins to fund our book, right? That we can go off and do like 2 years of research.
research. Like
drive through the heartland.
What happened to the strip club?
It's going to be a great coffee table book.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Where have all the G strings gone? And
put that out around Christmas time. I'm telling you, man. Just set that out for visitors to come leaf through.
So if someone works for a publisher that wants to front us in advance, or someone wants to put together an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter, for us to do this, I would happily quit my day job and drive around the country just looking for strip clubs.
Looking for
interviewing.
strip clubs. Right. This would be like also an exercise in ethnography, right? We would be doing like really God's work.
Yes, definitely God's work.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a plan. So I mean, stay tuned for our new podcast.
Yes,
right. Like you said, where did all the G strings go?
Where have all the G strings on? Sung to? Is that Paula Cole?
Yes,
who
I was going to say. So we're going to have to like rewrite the Paula Cole song.
Right. Well, our Kickstarter or our we'll need to be able to fund her singing that song again for us, specifically for us.
Right. Well, I look. Here's the thing. I think that she should do it, gratis because of all of the torture she put us all through watching Dawson's Creek.
Good point.
I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, it seems that seems like something.
Yeah. And of course now I have now I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait like stuck in my head.
Yes,
so.
I know. And I've had I've had the Revenge of the Nerds rap in my head for like the past 2 days because I saw like they were at some like this is what they're no offense to them. But this is like now they all get together at like some sort of horror con or I forget exactly. I forget if it was Horror Hound or Horror Days or whatever. There was a horror con that that was around like most recently, and it was a big one. And they've gone a couple years in a row where they get most of the nerds. Not it's like Matuzak and Lamar and I forget the little one.
Booger.
He's not little. Yeah,
not Booger.
Booger's always there.
Booger's always there.
Booger was there. And so Lamar will do the rap, and then they'll have the Asian nerd, and like I don't know if I don't think Anthony Edwards shows up. To be fair, but he may still be living off that. He doesn't. He had that sweet ER money that he doesn't need to do these cons. And Carradine, I'm not sure where that's family money that he doesn't probably. I don't know. I've not seen him at a con or at a con listing. Anyway. They'll be in some sort of panel and then they'll do the rap and it's like okay, it's a terrible earworm.
So it's kind of like that and like the Super Bowl Shuffle and the Ghostbusters. I mean it's all just kind of like Bobby Brown's Ghostbusters song.
Packed up, equipped, it's exactly yes.
Those all just kind of like end up on like repeat and then like Will Smith's getting jiggy with it. Right. But seriously, that question I asked you earlier. His music cannot be any better than like Eddie Murphy's, right? Or Bruce Willis, like Bruno stuff, because it's all like. At least those guys quit. At least those guys had the sense to be like, all right, I'm done making music now. Like after Eddie Murphy, I think kind of hit Apex Mountain with "Put Your Mouth on Me."
I think for Smith, it's just a matter of believing your own hype, right? I mean, because all of those songs, the reason they're different, and I think for those who don't remember Party All the Time, that was a hit. Like, but I don't necessarily know that was like, that was something that people were like, they thought it was a good song. It was just a hit because it was
Eddie Murphy,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was a terrible fucking song.
Oh, yes.
So bad.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the video was dumb. I mean, it was, awful.
Yes. Yeah.
Awful.
But for Will, like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, what are the Will Smith songs that, like, getting jiggy with it, that just seems like a Wild Wild West song to me, right?
Absolutely. But that stupid song, Summertime, it's so bad.
But I mean, okay, so like, but if you're giving him a little bit of grace, like probably Jiggy with It and Summertime are like his two like legitimate non-movie hits, right? Are there other ones that I'm missing? I can't think of the other. I mean, I can't. I mean, of course, I didn't follow like, but because by the time that he does get Jiggy with It and Summertime, both of those come out in times where like we're already like into Tupac and Wu-Tang and Biggie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's already legitimate like rappers. Like I think he just existed as this weird entry point for white kids to get into rap, right?
Yeah.
And it was safe and it was generic and it was meme worthy at the time, right? I mean, like I Can Beat Mike Tyson, Nightmare on My Street, Parents Just Don't Understand, and they were interesting videos from a perspective of MTV being able to play them. It was like that and Walk This Way with like the two biggest like rap videos for the longest time.
But we
on MTV,
still had Yo MTV Raps at that time.
True.
So I mean, but no. I mean, what you said, notwithstanding, right? I mean, because you're right. It was safer, right? Because parents would be like, oh yeah, no, I know Aerosmith, sure, that's fine, right? Or this song seems perfectly like, inconsequential.
Right. Yeah, it was just there was nothing that was dangerous about it, right? I mean, there was nothing that like there was nothing that hard edge. And I hate to say something like LL was hard edge, but if you take a look at like who else was around at that time besides like Sugar Hill Gang, which people weren't really. I mean, you had Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick, and you had Ice-T, and all of those. And very quickly, then you had Beastie Boys and Run, and as far as like the really popular groups go,
right. At
that point, like all of those seem a lot more dangerous than Will Smith, right? I mean, and then you start to get into like, because right at that point, and it's right as like, I'm trying to remember what like kicked off the Tipper Gore parental advisory stickers. What really? Because I know it was rap, but I just I don't remember like if there was specific.
I feel like wasn't it Ice-T? Wasn't it? Was it the original Gangster album?
That would have come along so much later, though, right?
Because it was it would have been like 90. Well, wait, okay. When did Tipper Gore do the?
I know that the parental guidance sticker was on NWA on NWA Straight Outta Compton.
Okay. Because the Ice-T record I'm thinking of would have been like 90, or right around there, but it was a little bit before that, right?
Yeah, OG. That would have been probably the same time. I'm trying to figure out if it was Original Gangster or then what was the one that came after it with the. And there's no way I'm going to pull the title, but the one where he has it's like the hand drawn, where the guy's got a gun in his mouth.
Yeah, and it's got the it's got the Black and Decker song on it. Just the
yes,
yeah.
I was trying to Google first parental guidance
explicit lyrics
sticker. Yeah. But I mean, so that was the first. Who had the first parental advisory? Let's see, Two Lives Crew. That's okay, but like, that seems that seems okay. It says the first album. This is AI. This is a Google at Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that banned in the USA in 1990. But I swear. Okay. I had a cassette tape that had parental advisory on the NWA. And NWA Straight Outta Compton would have been before 1990s banned in the USA.
Right.
Yeah.
But I remember right around like the OG and like right around 1990 was where I was worried about going into the record store and buying stuff.
Yeah, right. And and potentially you get stopped, right? I mean, somebody, there always somebody who would like not sell it to you if you weren't 18 or whatever, right?
Right. But because that was right around the time that I worried about it. So, but yeah,
I still can't believe that it was Two Live Crew, like, because Banned in the USA comes out after Nasty as They Wanna Be, like, so I mean,
but Nasty as They Wanna Be had like a huge, like there was all kinds of uproar over that.
Sure, right?
Yeah. And so they were probably just like, okay, whatever your next record is, right, is going to get that sticker.
So Wikipedia said there were some early warnings seen on like Purple Rain and like Rhyme Pays, which Purple Rain is so. I mean, aside from Darling Nikki,
I was going to say that's the only right.
But Rhyme Pays would have been the one. Well, but Rhyme Pays, what? Okay, so that would have still been before. I'm trying to remember. That would have been Let's Get Butt Naked and Fuck. Like that would have been that album, right?
Yeah.
I love that song.
That's great. Should we talk about some movies?
Yeah. Do
Okay.
you want to talk a little bit about Val? And,
Yeah. Well, let me start the show. Let me do our thing, okay? Or like whatever
Do
it
your
is that
stuff.
I have like deemed like worthy that what we need to do before every show. Welcome back,
Sure,
streamers.
right.
Welcome back, streamers, to another episode where we examine our complicated and toxic relationship with the idea of love, romantic and familial. On today's show, a conversation about two new films, Borderline and The Monkey, and we start our look at the current filmography, and I say current because she will do more, of Amanda Kramer with Paris Window. Okay, so also Val
Which?
Kilmer. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, which listener, if you look up Amanda Kramer's filmography, it appears that Paris Window is her second film, but it actually was her first film that she filmed.
That's correct.
Lady World would come out later. Paris Window.
Technically,
would
Paris
come out-
Window's
well, Paris Window would come out later,
2017, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
Lady World is technically 2018. So
Right.
yes. So we are honoring that, yes, because that's how we roll. So
So if you're like, oh, those dummies don't know how time works, we're like, yes, we do. We just.
we also
and it's
understand
fine.
that time is a construct. So
Here's the thing: is that there's probably 5 podcasts in the world, podcast episodes that have talked about Paris Window. I
was gonna
anyway, we'll be one of them.
and
It'll
who
be
knows how
fine.
well we're going to talk about it.
Well, true, because it's difficult. But
Oh,
I will say
man.
that it's going to be a difficult conversation. But we'll get to it when we get to it. So yeah, we just had Val Kilmer pass away from pneumonia at the age of 65, which I don't like. I don't like it. I'm closer to that than I am like 35, and it's.
But he was not doing well.
No, he had throat cancer
Yeah.
for the longest.
Yeah.
So true. He was not in the greatest of health, and like those types. And pneumonia is what usually gets you, right? I mean, like after you've had a long bout. We didn't talk about, and I'm glad we didn't. We didn't talk about how Gene passed in the last
I
episode.
know.
Because it's way too sad. I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up. So,
But yeah, pneumonia is the one thing, right? It's just that you get sick, you overcome it, or you're able to like persevere, and then there's just this one thing that like puts you under, and then you can't ever recover. And that, but 65 seems way too young. And granted, it wasn't like. But you're right. He had some health issues, but 65 is a rough one to tap out at.
Yeah, it's weird. I can never decide like what age is like a good age to die. I mean, no, and what I mean is like I hear people like, oh, this person died at 75, and I'm like, my mother's like close to that age, and she's in really good shape and like really good health. I'm like, okay, so. What does that mean? Or like and then like her sisters are older and they're still like, they'll still punch you in the face or whatever. And so, but then like,
I'm gonna John Travolta Boy in the Plastic Bubble it when I get to like 60.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be, I'm just gonna be like hermetically sealed. And then.
I don't know, man.
But
I'm just gonna like,
so,
like get tetanus and see what happens.
go the other route, just be sick all the time, like
what happens?
be a walking outbreak monkey. Like,
yes, yeah. Because I am like Kevin Spacey in that film where I just tell people not to use the word "very."
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what your relationship with Val Kilmer. Obviously, we didn't have one; we didn't know him. But your relationship with Val Kilmer was. But I went back to look at his filmography because when I think about it, like in my head, it seemed like there was a lot of ebbs and flows.
Oh yeah.
But really, there weren't. Like I mean, like he starts in 84 with Top Secret. His first movie out of the gate, he's top billed, right?
Right.
And I mean, like I couldn't tell you how that movie did box office wise. I know that comes out after Airplane, so those movies would have been huge at the time. But I don't necessarily know if Top Secret. I just know like. From a video store perspective.
Oh yeah.
Like my friend perspective, Top Secret was as good, and as rotated as Airplane ever was.
Yep.
If you were like in the know and like were edgy, you'd played Kentucky Fried Movie, but like, but Top Secret and Airplane, and then of course, then you started getting into Naked Gun and Hot Shots, which kind of rolled right out after those. But like Top Secret for me was just on constant rotation.
Oh yeah.
And then Real Genius is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, I think like aside from a horrifically slow start to that movie, once it kicks in with them getting to school and Mitch getting to like at the science fair for Mitch, it just never lets up. It's so damn good. Like you could cut the first. I know it sets up the plot, but like by the time you get to what they're actually working on, you forget that first 10 minutes. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. And I was so in love with the girl. I forget her name. In that movie.
I'm going to tell you here in a second, but wait, maybe I'm not.
It's not on the front page. That's why I was trying to pull it up.
I know.
It's God dang it. And she's far down too. Shit. Like Ick is better. Bodhi. God damn, where's her stupid name? This is embarrassing for both of us.
No. It's good content. It's good content. Actually, I just hate the word content. So, I don't know. I'll let you go.
Yeah, you keep. Yeah. That. So
but no. I am kind of with you there in terms of I remember watching Top Secret early. Well, I mean, it would have been a little bit older, but like watching it at a friend's house. I feel like on HBO or either VHS. I'm not sure. And then, Real Genius, I remember, I saw Real Genius first, before I saw Top Secret. But then from there, he does Top Gun, right? And so, I mean, I feel like kind of like in our youth, he's like ever present, because then Willow comes next, right? And then, I mean, I'm sorry, my youth.
Yes.
I'm sorry. No. But like in our childhood, in our youth, he's like ever present. He's there all the time, right? I mean, Top Gun, Willow, The Real Genius, and Top Secret. Because again, like these are like ever present movies. And then we get The Doors in '91, and like, and look, I'm like what 13 in '91. We all go through a Doors phase. Luckily, we grow out of it, right? But. But they suck. Sorry, but we go through that phase, and so like that film was big for a lot of kids, like my age at that time too.
Can I say that the musicians in The Doors, I think, are pretty amazing?
No, they are. They are fantastic. Yes, but I think a lot of their songs are stupid.
Jim Morrison was a terrible poet, and I think had he lived, I think that would have played out. I mean, I think we would have. I think the Doors would have become the Eagles in a certain sense. But I went through a Doors phase right when the Doors was coming. So like so I was 17 when the Doors comes out. And so like that hit just unbelievably at the right time. And it was such a Oliver Stone before Oliver Stone kind of went over the edge and over the bend Oliver Stone movie. Because it was still like kind of psychedelic and like mind bendy and it just played into that mythos so well. I went back, I couldn't believe, and I don't know, I didn't look, but I can't believe that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar. I know. Because like at a certain point, even the Doors, other members were like, we couldn't discern, Kilmer's voice from Morrison's voice. The fact that he sang his own songs, the fact that he embodied Jim Morrison so well, like, I mean, like, to the point if you put them side by side, like it's pictures of them side by side, it's uncanny. And the movie was, look, the movie was overblown, and but as far as like biopics go, like, and I mean, obviously the Doors have a, contention with it. The other surviving members of the Doors have a contention with it, but you knew what it was going to be when Oliver Stone got his hands on it, right? I mean, I think I think that movie was pretty good. I think that also because it was the first time that I saw Meg Ryan topless, that really helped the whole conversation for me, because I was a huge crush on Meg Ryan.
Who didn't have a huge crush on Meg Ryan?
And the moment that there's this, and I can tell you this scene, I can tell you I audibly gasped in the movie theater. And this was the days like when movie theaters were like opening weekend, they were always packed, right?
Yeah.
If you saw whatever was opening up on that weekend, typically you were in a full theater.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't like you weren't. I mean, like full, no stadium seating. You were in a full theater, just sitting there with a bunch of other folks. There's a sequence
close
where
to people.
Right, yeah, and there's a sequence where Morrison's head is like on Meg Ryan's chest, and he like lifts his head, and you see like one boob, and I was like, I could. I never thought it would happen and she had been naked before that in other movies, but not like, but for whatever reason, like it was, some of those earlier films, especially they were hard to find on video.
Yeah.
Of that particular, because she wasn't like before Top Gun, she wasn't. She was a person, obviously, and she'd made stuff, but like Top Gun was like her big breakout too.
She was a person.
Like, I mean, she
was alive. She was the thing, yeah.
She was on one of the soap operas, and she was like in Amityville 3D and like
right.
And she'd been in stuff like Inner Space, but like she really hadn't started doing, things like Presumed Innocent or like these kind of pseudo serious roles for her. This was all
she was in Presumed Innocent.
No, not Presumed Innocent. Sorry, it was. I forget what's Pride and it's something. Fuck, I can picture the poster and I can't. No, I have to go back and look it up. Not Presumed Innocent, but it sounds like that.
Okay. Was it another one with? Was it another one with Dennis Quaid?
No, it might have been actually. I don't know.
Because didn't she do like two back to back with him, like Inner Space and then something else?
I had to pull up her filmography.
Anyway, yeah,
I don't remember her doing anything other than. She did DOA, which is a serious film with him.
Right.
I don't know when that would have fallen.
That's probably what I was. That's probably what I was thinking of.
Right, that remake. But then, like, okay, so we go from The Doors to like Thunderheart, which is a seemingly well reviewed, but kind of a movie that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And he does Thunderheart and The Real McCoy, which are two films that he headlines again. Like he doesn't do supporting roles at all, hardly. He does a thing for Tarantino. He did Elvis, right? For True Romance. But I mean, like that's a voiceover role for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's obviously a Tony Scott film as well. Right. So like it's not like he goes into Tombstone, which is a ensemble. He's not and he's the standout in the ensemble. Right?
He steals every scene he's in.
And then he goes to Batman. Like the next thing he does, I mean, not the next thing he does, because there's a movie called Wings of Courage, which I don't really know anything about. But like, then he does Batman and Heat.
Yep.
And then his career starts to take the turn because he does The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a huge, just
like a fucking mess.
Terrible. Right. And it's just bad. Like it's bad from all aspects. It's bad from Kilmer's aspects. It's bad from Brando's aspect and the director's aspect. And then he does Ghost in the Darkness, which is not well received,
but it's a Michael Douglas movie.
It's a Michael Douglas movie, right? And I remember it kind of like failing at the box office when it came out. It's not a terrible movie, but it's not like memorable either.
Oh, it's one we went and saw at the theater. I mean, we were just out, and it's like, let's go see a movie, and like that was because like, oh, Kilmer and Douglas, yeah, let's go, right?
Right. Flesh and Bone was the Meg Ryan movie I was trying to think of.
Okay.
She did that. She did A Prelude to a Kiss After the Doors, which I really love. That movie does not get enough love. And then Sleepless in Seattle. And then she starts going into her, like, she kind of bounces back and forth. She's Flesh and Bone, When a Man Loves a Woman, which I really like that one too.
I do too.
And then she goes back to like French Kiss and IQ, which are rom-coms. And then she really gets into like, she's in that period piece on Ensemble Restoration. She does Courage Under Fire, which people think she's kind of miscast in that. And then Addicted to Love is really her like last. Well, I guess not, because she's still got You Got Mail and Hanging Up. But like she does Addicted to Love, which is kind of a dark rom-com, and then City of Angels, which is the remake, and Hurly Burly, and then Proof of Life is where her career starts to take a shit because
wait, she's in Hurly Burly?
Yeah. She's the hooker in Hurly Burly.
Oh, right. Shit. How did I forget that?
Which we still need to do.
No, I know.
As far as our dangerous banger.
Because, yeah, I would like to talk to you about that. So, yeah,
but then he does the Saint.
Do that.
so Kilmer does The Saint in 97.
Yep.
Right? I mean, which is not, again, Elizabeth Shue, but he's not, like, well received. And it was supposed to be the thing that was supposed to, like, be another thing, right? It was supposed to be, like, his Batman, which his Batman doesn't do well.
Or his James Bond.
Well, I mean, no, his Batman's fine, right? Yeah. But I think he clearly didn't want to come back and do, and no one really did want to come back and do the next one, Batman and Robin. But the Saint was supposed to be it's based on a TV series. It's supposed to be his like James Bond / Mission Impossible. So it comes out right after Mission Impossible comes out, and it's supposed to be like his thing. But it doesn't do well enough at the box office, so it doesn't take off. But then even then, like, okay, so like he still bounces around. He does Prince of Egypt, which is a voice role. At First Sight, which, you know, it's a silly blind man movie. Joe the King, which I don't think anybody really remembers. And then he does Red Planet, which the Red Planet doesn't do well, but no Mars movie ever did well.
Right.
So it's not really on him. So I guess all I'm saying is like and then he does the Salton Sea, which the Salton Sea is really good.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other things. He bounces to Wonderland.
That's right.
And he does the Mamet film Spartan.
Yep.
Mine Hunters, which we have to talk about at some point on this podcast. It's so terrible and awesome.
Yeah.
And then then he kind of goes right into Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in 2005. So like he has. It's weird because I really did think that there were kind of ebbs and flows, but if you look at this kind of laid out end to end, like. He always has some sort of like something in the pipeline that's actually going to be a really good movie, and then but it just feels like I mean maybe he wasn't as big of a star as maybe we thought he was going to be.
Right.
And I mean he's I don't know why, like, I mean I say that because like it just feels like when you mention stars that were like huge, it just Val Kilmer doesn't really ever like pop up, right? I mean at least I don't think he does anyway.
No, I'm with you, and maybe that's, I don't know. I mean, because he's around in the same time as Cruise, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the Cruise takes. I mean, because you think about Top Gun, and yeah, sure, you know Kilmer's in there, but it's a Cruise movie, right?
Right. And things like the things that he tries to really headline, like these action films that he tries to headline,
they just don't work.
Right? They just don't ever really take off for him. Although he's well received in Wonderland, like I mean that old John Holmes movie, like.
Yeah.
But then once he gets to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, after that it gets to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and pretty sparse too.
I mean, he does a lot of stuff. Like if you look at his like 2008, there's like 10 entries, not quite that many, but a lot. But they're all like stuff no one's ever heard of. I mean, like, except for like, and then he's like he's in The Love Guru,
right?
Or he does the voice in Delgo. I mean, like,
and he's doing some stuff in TV and
yeah. And then from there, like, it's just like he'll pop up in occasionally a good movie, but for the most part, it's 4s and 5s across the board, right?
Yeah. Until
Until he kind of comes back. And then, never. I mean, he does Palo Alto with Kristen Stewart in 2013, and then that's he was in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, but I mean, just as a cameo.
And he was in The Snowman with Michael Fassbender. That movie's fucking terrible. He was in The Birthday Cake. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not see that. No.
But
I mean, like, but as far as like, I mean, I don't know. He was. Because I think he kind of came up in the era in which I was really heavily into these films. Like he was kind of a god to me. Like, I mean, like like Real Genius is such an amazingly funny film, and like I mean, I think Top Secret is as well. But like he's so like effortless in both of those movies, and so like perfect in the way that those movies need you to be perfect, where you're not playing it. You've got to be kind of. You don't have to be Leslie Nielsen where you're not aware that you're in a comedy, but you do need to be able to play it straight so it can still be funny. And he's so good in those. And it's like I said, it's just one of those things where it's like, he takes second billing to Cruise and Top Gun. And then things where he tries to break out, like Willow. Willow could have been a huge franchise if it had have done well, right? I mean, The Doors could have set him off on a Oscar path of like serious films, as well as Tombstone could have. And I think he's memorable, but I just don't think it's just weird that his career never really he's never. I don't really ever consider him an A-lister. Like the Batman doesn't. He does one Batman, and it's he gets upstaged by Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey. It's those types of things that just kind of continually happen to his career.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a different actor than. I mean, look, I kind of feel like it would be easy for him to get upstaged by those two, and I mean almost like to no fault of his own, right? Especially when
Sure.
you're giving Jim Carrey that role, right? And you kind of unleash Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, so you're asking,
and you're in a Schumacher film, right? I mean, so like
Right.
it's not like
right? Yeah, I mean, so I mean, yeah. A lot of times, I don't think it's his fault. I just think that there's and I don't know enough about him to understand or to know like what his appetite was for that, right? I mean,
True.
did he want to be, that big? Did he want to be Cruise? Did he want to be at that level, or was he happy like giving a really great performance in Heat?
Right.
Playing off these other
Yeah.
guys, playing in this kind of ensemble cast, but like holding his own against everyone that's there, except
Right.
for Tom Sizemore. So R.I.P. Val Kilmer, right? He was obviously a presence in our movie lives, but you brought up Leslie Nielsen a couple times, and so I wanted to ask if you've seen the trailer for the new Naked Gun, and what your thoughts are on said trailer.
When I first saw it, when it first started, I didn't really. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like the way that this is going. Like, I don't know if I need a badass Frank Drebin Jr. Right? I don't need someone who's competent. The whole funny part of the Naked Gun series was that he wasn't exactly bumbling, but he was clueless, right?
Yeah,
So and so I'm okay with a teaser trailer. That may not be what the end product is. I'm also okay with a different take. I do think that it would be a mistake to not play into Liam Neeson's strengths.
Yeah.
And I think that he has a different set of skills, not to go all taken on us, but a different set of skills than, say, a Leslie Nielsen does. So, when he's standing there in the schoolgirl skirt and he's got the heart panties on, I think that was pretty funny.
That was funny.
And so, like, I was really shocked that they included OJ.
I know.
So, like,
I know.
I was like, that's a ballsy move.
But I do
and
like how they dealt with it. Yeah.
Yeah, like all these guys, I think that premise of like this police squad is just the
all
sons
the like
of
sons
all
of.
the.
Yeah, I like that. And OJ's son just like,
I miss you, Dad. I miss you, Dad. And then it's like, yeah. So who's directing it?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna.
I wish I. But I'm thinking I'm pretty pleased with who's at the helm and who's writing it. So I'm hopefully optimistic because I do think that we are like it is a good time.
Akiva
Okay,
Schaffer?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's one of the Lonely Island guys, right?
Oh, right. That's okay. Yes.
So I'm in on that. I think I think they're the perfect people for that.
Yeah.
And I think we're good for, how much we talked about like in the Hackman episode where we're good for, we're probably primed for those kind of conspiracy theory movies to come back, the movies like The Package and Under Siege to kind of come back around. That I think we're good for these types of parody films. And like I'm holding out hope for I do think, and again, because we got so far off, right? Because when the Wayans started doing it, it was one thing to do Scary Movie, and Scary Movie was fine. But then everything beyond that was just, hey, you had to have seen all these other movies, and all we're doing is making pop culture jokes. And then the whole Friedberg and Seltzer, I forget those guys' names, but they were all those movies were just god awful. I mean, intentionally god awful, right? And the only one that ever broke out was Not Another Teen Movie, for me anyway. That was actually funny, and the rest of them were really terrible. So that and the fact that we're getting a new Spinal Tap, which with the original crew, I'm fingers crossed that they all turn out and they don't. I mean, we'll always have the originals. It doesn't really matter, but I'm holding out hope that they can still bring the funny and that they do it justice. But yeah, I do think that that Neeson is inspired casting. I do think that that's a really fun take. And so it's one of those things, like, I hope it works out, because if I looked at, like, when they did the new Fletch with John Hamm, which I thought was really funny too. But it just got dumped during COVID and dumped direct to streaming. That was disappointing that we couldn't have gotten more, because Fletch is another one of those guys. We talked about, like, Night Moves and should have been like a series of films from that. Right. Like, there's so many Fletch books, and there's so like, there's so much material there that would seem to, lend itself directly for film. And it's disappointing that, we could never get those, off the ground the way that I thought they should be. But anyway, no, I'm excited. I think it looks funny. And I think the fact that, I don't think that the entire movie will be like Frank Drebin kicking ass. And I like the gutsiness of including OJ in there. So I think that kind of turned it for me. It was like, okay, I'm in on this. Yeah.
I'm excited to watch it. Yeah.
Have you seen the new Thunderbolts trailer?
I have not. I have heard, because I don't care. I mean,
right.
What I mean is I know that it's coming out. That's great.
You have to see it.
I know I have to see it, right? Because Florence Pugh is in it, so I'm going to go see it. And what I'm interested in now is, I'm interested because of what she said about it, right? And how this feels more kind of like if A24 did a superhero movie. And I'm like, okay, I can pretend that that's maybe what I'm watching when I go watch it.
Well, that's the whole spin on the trailer, right? It's like from the producers that brought you this, and the composers that brought you Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of funny take on like trying to get the non-Marvel crowd. It's like, they bring up like all these films that, like Minari and like all these other films. I thought it was pretty funny and clever. Yeah.
Am I gonna have to like go watch like the Black Widow stuff and there's nothing the other things that like who are the other characters in that?
I mean, you've got no, because none of them, other than all of them, are in that Black Widow film.
Okay. Okay. So I could watch that and then know who these people are.
So I think you've got to. I mean, you don't have to. The Falcon.
I've seen that.
So Wyatt Russell, his character's got introduced in that first Falcon series.
Yeah.
Where Sebastian Stan comes from.
Yeah.
Ghost was in one of the, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure someone's going to yell at me, but like I think they were in one of the Ant-Man movies. If I'm not, I can't remember now exactly.
I don't even know. I don't know who you're talking about. Who's Ghost?
One of the. They're all like, this is basically the Suicide Squad.
Right.
Right.
I just don't know who Ghost is.
At one point, it was a bad guy who did stuff.
Okay.
I don't
know.
It's been there's a lot of movies out there, but I don't think you're going to need to go back and try to fill in the, because you're not going to care if you miss a reference or not, right?
No. No. And I bet I could figure it out with context anyway, right?
Most likely, yeah. You can always go back to there'll be somebody on the internet that'll explain it. You can go to a Screen Rant video and that'll tell you all the Easter eggs you might have missed in Thunderbolts.
I'll be reading Reddit while I'm watching the film.
You and everybody else in the theater will be.
All right, let's get into today's films. Jason, I think we've talked enough about strip clubs and bad hip hop and and whatever else we just talked about. I want to start. Let's start with Borderline.
Okay.
Hello?
I miss you a lot. So by now, the best day of my life, and therefore yours, will be fast approaching. I love you so much, Sophia.
Tonight is the night I'm proposing. We've been through Sophia.
You're hilarious, Sophia.
I'm ready to be yours forever.
We're getting married?
What, are you having second thoughts?
I have a surprise for you.
This is Penny. She's a big fan of yours.
I killed someone.
Look at that! Friends already.
Let's get all units to Cassowary Tabernacle.
JH, put the gun away. What kind of way is that to treat our guests?
Crazy bitch! Oh, God.
That is such bad luck, Sophia!
Please help yourself to champagne and first aid.
You put a priest in a box?
No, I put a pastor in a box. We're Protestant.
A bodyguard protects a pop superstar and her athlete boyfriend from a determined stalker in 1990s Los Angeles. So, I want to say this first. I don't think all of this movie works. I think a lot of it doesn't work, but I like the performances. And I think it's also like kind of a fun movie, even if the flaws like hold it back from being something better.
Yeah, I don't know. It is. I've seen it a couple times now, and I'm like, it is so bonkers, and it's so all over the place.
All over the place.
But I think there's a gem in there that there's a really good movie in there somewhere. It doesn't quite pop on the screen. And I think, you know, it advertises itself from the writer of The Cocaine Bear. This is Jimmy Warden's first directorial debut. He's married to Samara Weaving. He wrote The Babysitter, Killer Queen, the Babysitter sequel, Killer Queen, which I actually like both of those movies. As far as like a McG movie goes, I think those movies are fun. And they're easy, like simple watches. I think the first one's obviously better than the second one, but I think the second one,
gives us Jenna Ortega, doesn't it?
Yeah, adding Jenna Ortega, and I like to see Cole's progression as as he's growing up. I also think that all of the ghosts, you know, all the bad guys in that movie are really well cast, and I think they're a little over the top in Killer Queen, and they're a little bit more subdued in The Babysitter. But all that being said, this feels like in the same vein as those movies. I was not a fan of Cocaine Bear because I thought Cocaine Bear was a concept that did not have a movie behind it. It was just here's the thing. Here's two words we can throw together.
Here's an idea,
and we don't really know how to back it up.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie goes hard enough when it needs to go hard enough. It needs to be bonkers. And I think Nicholson have you ever seen Baptista before? I know she's in a Netflix series called Killer Nun, but I've not seen her on screen. Alba Baptista, the girl who plays Penny, the one who's like really crazy. So she's got I give it, and evidently she's got international presence, and she's got a Netflix series called Killer Nun that's been on for a couple series now. So, but I think she's the familiar. She's if only Kurt Cobain had have lived to seen
Killer Nun. Yeah, I do that way too often now, where I'm like, just kind of like by myself, like, oh, if only Kurt Cobain had lived to see this, like, whatever I'm watching, or if only Kurt Cobain had tried this sandwich. I just,
So, yeah, this whole movie starts off with Eric Dane is a bodyguard, and he's protecting Samara Weaving, who's a pop star / actress, and Ray Nicholson, Jack Nicholson's son, who is also in Novocaine, who also, like, in Novocaine looks jacked. Like, he doesn't really look jacked in in this movie. Like,
no,
I mean, he's like
he's got a
fit,
but more of like a dad bod kind of fit, right? I mean,
well, I mean, he dances around in his underwear.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like he's not like you're not counting abs, is what I'm saying.
Right. He doesn't have pecs, right? And that, I mean, so like between this and like, which is the same year, and maybe he's wearing a tight shirt that or maybe he just worked out a lot between this and Novocaine.
Well, this got filmed.
Who knows?
This got held up. It got filmed and then they held it and then they put it out like. So I think this was filmed a couple years ago, actually.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, so like, don't give the guy too much credit, is what I'm saying. Right? So like, it takes time, you know?
So we're set up with the scene of Ray Nicholson, Paul Durson is this kind of mentally ill stalker of Samira Weaving's Sophia. And he shows up to her house thinking that he's going to marry her, and then he ends up stabbing Eric Dane. Excuse me, I got a frog.
Come on, man.
I know, right? Got to be professional.
Since when?
And then flash forward months later, right? Then he breaks out of prison, and we're introduced to Sophia. And then it's a whole night of him coming back with him getting basically Ray Nicholson getting all of his like cronies together to come back and marry Sophia again, and he's completely delusional to the point where he starts to think other people are Sophia, which I think is really the key of this movie, is Paul's delusion of like not as being in love with this concept, and I think this is where the good movie lies, right? Right. Well, and I shouldn't least. Here's where I think the good movie lies, and I'm trying to pat myself on the back. But here's where the good movie lies: is where Paul doesn't really care. Is not necessarily so hung up with Sophia in Samara Weaving's body, but he's enamored with the idea of Sophia, which I think is an interesting thread. I think it's a really interesting thread to pull because it continually starts to confuse other people for Sophia. Also, I think Samara Weaving's intrigue with Paul, and she hates the fact that he's a stalker and that he's intruding, but also she doesn't ever feel loved. And that's not really a thing that's really tapped in this movie very much. But you can hear at the end of the movie when they're at the wedding sequence, where she's like, he's kind of the only person that's ever really truly loved me. And he doesn't. And I think that part is really interesting. I think if this movie doesn't try to be so like, let me ask you this. Yeah. I think Eric Dane is a huge wet blanket. And I think he's kind of the reason that this doesn't pop the way that it should.
Okay, so I think in part, sure, right? But also I think that the structure of the film doesn't do itself any favors, because the tonal shifts are all over the place, right? It's just like it never picks a tone. It just is bonkers. But also like the time shift is a little jarring in that you're not
necessary, really.
Right. So there's that. I think this idea about Nicholson loving the idea, not necessarily the person, I think that's really compelling and really interesting. And I wish they would have tapped in more of that, right? But also the idea that Sophia doesn't feel love. I mean, I get it, and I get that idea, with someone in her position, right? That level of celebrity. But also, Jimmy Fails is trying, right? And she is unable to receive that love from him, which is maybe more of an interesting idea, right? Than like not being loved or feeling loved, but not being able to accept that. I mean, because he finds this list, right, of she's keeping of like people that apparently she wants to sleep with, like Robert Smith from The Cure.
Well, I think it's so I actually tried to read it because I paused it today, and like it's basically her agents are sending over people who are she's up for a film role, and these are people who are going to be cast opposite of her in this film.
Is that
role.
what it was?
Okay,
because he reads it as like because he's on the list.
Right. He's on the list right above Robert Smith is the next person.
right. Which is weird because he's a basketball player.
Right.
So then but he finds that list and he assumes.
So he's Dennis Rodman, right? I mean, that's basically he's a stand-in for
Dennis
Rodman.
Because she's kind of like Madonna and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. I mean, all of these people kind of like wrapped up, right? But he's and even like, you know, his outfit, the outfit that he's wearing when they come back from the club is very like a la Dennis Rodman in Vegas, right?
Right.
So, but he seems to be a much more well put together version of Dennis Rodman, right? Because he's upset when he finds this list. He's like, so you're just going to throw me away now? I mean, he seems to really care about this like relationship, right? I mean, even, you know, so much to at the end, you know, he's willing to go through with this like marriage, which is funny, right?
Right.
Him in that dress is funny. And he just kind of, and I mean, it's cheesy, but the ending, right? Where she's like, hey, we should give this a shot, right? And he's like, it'll never work. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm a married man. Which I thought was kind of funny, right? I mean, yeah. So, where's Jimmy Fails been?
Well, he was in Last Black Man in San Francisco, right? And then
I know that's what I mean.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know why he hasn't been. I don't know why he hasn't been in anything else. To be honest,
where's he been? That's what I mean. Yeah. So I mean, I just think that those ideas weren't like really developed enough. I think they lean too heavy into the comedy of the film, right? And then just kind of like let that stuff just kind of float away.
I think that would have been fine. I think I think there's a comedic take to all of this where you can still be kind of brutal and mean and still and funny and still come out with saying something.
Yeah,
I still just think that every time this movie goes back to Eric Dane and his kind of stoic nature and like worrying about his kid, like he seems so out of place in this because like when he goes back to pick up his kid, even the cop is doing some sort of like, you know, audition on the street, right? Yeah. He's the only one who doesn't have any sort of like funny thing to do, right? There's nothing for him to like participate in the movie. And then he just kind of just drags it down as like this serious cornerstone, is like he's the only one who can save her. But there's not really any reason for that, right? There's not really, and also you could have made him funny if that's the point, right? You could have made him, but like this idea that he's getting too old for this shit is a complete it's the wrong thing to have in this film, because this movie is so much fun when it wants to be.
Yeah,
I thought the sequence of where Sophia and Penny are singing together, I think was amazing. I thought their fight was amazing. I think Penny was just brilliant. Her whole like crazy for crazy's sake and wanting to be lit on fire and I forget the exact line when she puts on the security guard who's like in the gated community, his hat, and she's like, I think I like this American hat, or like this whole thing of like, and then when she's shitting on Samara Weaving about like how she's like, I thought you'd be prettier. You've got a great body, but I thought you'd be prettier. Like the way Paul talked about her, and of course, I mean, it goes back to like Paul not really seeing her.
Right.
He just has this concept of her.
Right.
God damn. It's this. Like I had fun with this, and I think it's disappointing that it's not better. But it's really, to me, it's like I said, it's really disappointing because I think there's something potentially great in this. Yeah, and I just feel like in steadier hands, and someone who kind of. I think it could have been pulled out, and I don't know. Like again, I don't know. I don't want to continually shit on Eric Dane, but I just feel like he's not in the right movie in this case.
Yeah,
and like he's a pretty face, but is he the right guy, or is that character even necessary? And I think the answer is no. I mean, I don't think that you need that conceit in there to like. You don't need the time jumps. You don't need all the convoluted shit. Just make this a crazy another. A babysitter movie with something to say, right?
Right. A one crazy night movie. Right. Mm-hmm. Instead of like these like 2.5 crazy nights or like whatever we get. And to be like, I just kind of forgot Eric Dane was there in the movie.
Well, and because again, the movie shoots him in the head for a minute and then just leaves. I mean, like, all the best parts of the movie are when Eric Dane is off screen. Like when they shoot him in the head, it all goes back to the house. And you could have had Jimmy Fails be the guy who saves I mean, he does save the day at the end of the day, right? I mean, like, so, like, I don't necessarily know why you need. The only reason you need another party is because Sophia seems almost willing to go along with this, right? She starts to seem to resign to the fact that like one, you know, she's not a big of a pop star as you know, these other people who are being mentioned. You don't ever hear any original music. You only hear covers. You know, and so like this idea that yes, she doesn't have anybody in her life, and that's why she's so happy to see Eric Dane and happy to put together a junior puzzle with her, which I thought that was a pretty funny bit as a puzzle of the movie poster.
I haven't
for
seen
Junior.
this one, but it looks like it looks great.
And for the movie to be set in 1990s and for that to be the joke, then that's fine. I'm okay with the entire setting just to pull off that joke. I actually appreciate that quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you don't really need him. You don't really need him aside from someone to maybe kick the knife across. But you've got the priest there. There's other people who could have served that purpose. You've got her assistant there, who really isn't given much to do either, right? I mean, like,
but I think that's also like the joke too, is that she's just
right.
completely ignored and like forgotten every time she shows up.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I think that there's something there, but it just doesn't pull everything off. Because I think it's trying to do too many things. Right? It's trying to do too many things at once and trying to go too many different directions and kind of trying to serve too many masters or whatever. So,
and I think it's one of these movies that like for it to have sat on the shelf and for it to go direct to streaming, like I think it's all trying too hard specifically for that reason, right?
Yeah.
Is that it has no other way to get noticed. And you would think that like you'd think that Samara Weaving has enough pull to get a theatrical release, right? But she never seems to get one.
I know. It's weird. I can't figure her out. I mean, because I've joked, right, and called her like a poor man's Margot Robbie, and I know that's like kind of a super easy joke, and I don't really mean that, right? But you see where it comes from. But I just can't figure out like where she belongs, because it's almost like Margot Robbie course corrected her, you know?
Right.
She's like the better version of that, and so I don't know where she is. Right? She's done some TV stuff. And she's done these kind of like, you know, streaming type movies, and I think she's good in everything. But
yeah,
you know, is she good enough to carry something and then have that weight? Like, are people going out to see Samara Weaving movies?
I mean, are they given the chance to? I think like something like The Babysitter. I think The Babysitter could have done well if it doesn't go directly to Netflix. I mean, like you have a prestige. You have a named director,
but
right?
who's done like a lot of TV as well.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, she was the face of Ready or Not. I mean, like I don't know why after Ready or Not,
right.
You know, then she takes backseat to Bill and Ted Face the Music. She's in that, but I mean, like, but I mean, no one gives a shit about that. And then, you know, she's in Chevalier. It's not how you pronounce it, I know. I mean, she's actually in Babylon and Scream 6. But I mean, like, not as
But, like,
as
just for
star.
like, in Scream 6, she's only in it, like, for the prologue or whatever.
The beginning of it, right?
Yeah.
And then her other two, so she got Borderline and Azrael this year. And, like,
oh, that's right.
It seems like either one of those, like, of the shit that gets like okay, so let's just take this and you compare it to something like Love Hurts or Heart Eyes. Like, this is as good as either one of those films.
Sure.
I mean, it's wild. It's wildly better than Love Hurts. Love Hurts is a garbage film, but it's again, and we'll never know, right? We'll never really know why certain things get released and certain things don't. I understand why Love Hurts gets released. You're playing on Key's moment. You know, and so that's fine. And for him, I think that's great. I don't want that to be sidelined. But I mean, something like, it seems like this could have gotten a theatrical release at some point and done just fine. And I think the Babysitter ones could have done just fine as well. Like, to me, The Babysitter is just as good as something like Happy Death Day or Freaky or Lisa Frankenstein or any of these other these movies that and they're stylistic enough. I mean, yes, it looks like it was filmed for Netflix, but I mean, like, okay, so what? I mean, I don't think there's going to be a ton of people that are going to be overly concerned about that if it gets released.
There's a lot of movies that look like shit, so
right.
You know, yeah, I don't know.
I would say this is worth the time just to see some of the performances. I wouldn't say that, yeah, this doesn't 100% work for me at all.
No.
But I do think that this is an interesting film, although I am concerned that because it seems like it lends itself more to Killer Queen than it does like actual growth in filmmaking and writing. So I'm not 100% sold on where this is going. I mean, where that director is going next. And of course, then, I mean, like the things that Samira Weaving has, she's got like 8 things that are upcoming and I can't tell. But the one that's only notable to me at the moment, and again, I haven't dug into any of these, but like is a Ready or Not sequel, you know? And so that's, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? Maybe this director just needed this, right? To kind of like play around and see what, I mean, look, here's what you hope like someone does, right? Is that they do this work, they take a step back and they go, okay, I did this well. I didn't do this very well. I did this well. Let me kind of play to these strengths then, right? I mean, I hope that's what any artist does. I mean, I know like when I finish an essay or something, I just go, I suck and throw it away and that's it. But, and I never, I try never to do it again. So, but you know, this guy has some money.
She is headlining a movie called Liz about Elizabeth Bonaparte, American founding mother and celebrity Elizabeth Patterson Bonaparte, directed by Adam Leon, who did Gimme the Loot. We don't know if you've seen that or not, but and a few other things. But like Gimme the Loot was like his like breakout in 2012. So I don't know. We'll see. I think she's great. I think she's a lot of fun, and I think she's like game. Like I mean, like that's the thing I love about her is like is that in this like. This isn't probably the most flattering role, but like it's so like, but like she seems like
I think it's good in how it plays with this idea of celebrity, right? And how she's, I mean, so I think that that's a interesting role for her to play, and the fact that it's not all that flattering, I think, is even that shows just how much game she is.
Right. What do you think about Nicholson's kid?
I like him in this. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
Yeah, you saw him in Smile 2, because I know you saw Smile 2.
Oh, right. I did. Oh, God. Who is he in Smile 2? I forget. Is he the
Paul Hudson? He's the first guy who's the killer, right? I mean, he's like
yeah, like the drug dealer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think,
and then he was in Licorice Pizza in a small role, and he was a promising young woman in a really small role.
Okay.
He's been acting since he's a kid. Yeah. But yeah, like for me, like, and he looks wildly different in Novocaine. He just because he like I don't know why, but like he seems like a kind of like an everyman. He's like, when I see him, I don't really recognize. Oh, that's him. So it took me a minute to like place him in Novocaine. It's his eyes are unique, but everything else about him's kind of generic.
Yeah, so. I really liked him in this, and I think he was really going for it, but wasn't. You know, I didn't feel like it was hammy. I guess if you know what I mean. Like I feel like he was that he was really putting some work into that character. So I'm interested to see like what else he does. You know, it's hard to you don't want to compare him to his dad, right? Because I think it's something like this is a completely different role than anything his dad ever did. So
I don't know if the line in this movie was directly referencing his lineage, and it probably wasn't. But when he is at the beginning and he's in that ill-fitting suit, he's like, "Do you like it? It was my dad's. It fits pretty well, doesn't it?" And it doesn't fit. I was like, "Man, that's a nice." If Warden used that specifically, I was like, "That's a pretty good line."
Yeah.
I mean, like, and like, it's a kind of a deep cut that like. But I don't necessarily know if that's what he meant behind it. I'd love to. Maybe we can get Jimmy Warden on the podcast and talk to him about it. But
yeah, especially since we just said, you know what, this movie doesn't really work. Here's what. Look, no.
If you can't defend your decisions to two Joe Schmo podcasters out there, then I don't think you deserve to make movies. Like,
or if our opinions bother you, like, oh, come on, man. Like,
right. And who knows what he thinks about this movie or not? I mean, maybe you know.
Like I said,
we've also heaped praise on his wife. So I mean, you know, it's not like we're complete bastards.
Right. Well,
Really, we were more
Maybe
mean to
you're
Eric
not.
Dane. I don't think Eric Dane's going to come on the podcast.
No.
So why do you think you were a wet blanket in
So what's up
Borderline?
with that? Right? Because I've seen you in other stuff. You can be fun,
do you think you were-
right?
I mean, I don't ever think you're that great, and I do think you're kind of like a generic,
I think you're
like
fine, like like a solid 6 out of 10. It's great, right?
I mean, be grateful you're really good looking, but outside of that, I mean, I don't think you'd have a
like
and it's
really,
it's like
really
you-
good looking.
but outside of that, I don't think you really deserve to have a career. Yeah, but it's
I mean, you're tall, kind of, I guess. So
right. Look, I think Eric Dane needs to be on NCIS. Right. I think that's the career for Eric Dane. Is those like TV shows
Those
where he's a
procedurals.
cop or a fireman or right, and he can like because that's what he in this movie is acting like. Right. I mean, like he is. He's in those. He's that guy in this movie. He's just some guy who's supposed to be a cop that is the steely one who knows all the rules.
Yep.
But I'm trying to see if he was in. I guess he was in Grey's Anatomy. That would
that would.
his
I
big
mean, that
thing,
would have been
right?
like his.
So,
he was in.
I never watched that show, so
I didn't either. He was in Euphoria, which I did watch, at least the first season of. It's a shit show. I'm not a fan of the director. I'm not a fan of Sam Levinson. Or what I just Anyway, all
right.
Anything else?
No. Okay. No. I would say if you're bored, check it out. I mean, like I definitely think it's if you're a Samara Weaving fan, check it out. I liked it. I mean, like I said, liked it. I guess it's strong, but I didn't have a bad time with it.
Or if you're borderline on watching it, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Let's talk the monkey.
Everything okay in there?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Oh, that's odd. I don't remember locking this.
You wouldn't happen to remember if my aunt had a wind-up toy monkey at the yard sale?
Oh, not a cherished childhood memory now, was it?
No! The coroner said it was an accident, but it was no accident. It was a monkey. When I was a kid, my twin brother and I found something that loved to kill. I did everything I could to make it go the fuck away. But it had other plans.
Hello, brother.
Bill.
The monkey that likes killing our family. It's back. It must be vanquished.
Why don't you vanquish it, huh, Bill? Wait! We have been chosen to witness its power over life and death in its most devious ways.
It's a toy monkey?
It's evil. It's basically the devil.
Everybody dies. And that's life.
Oh, fuck. When twin brothers Bill and Hal find their father's old monkey toy in the attic, a series of gruesome deaths start. The siblings decide to throw the toy away and move on with their lives, growing apart over the years. Okay, so this is directed by Oz Perkins, the director of Longlegs, and I look, for all the negative things I said and think about Longlegs, I think he gets the tone of this film right. I think it's an absurd movie, and I think he knows it's absurd, and he just lets it be absurd. And I think this is kind of fun and gory and ridiculous, and Theo James is having a really good time.
I do think Theo James is having a good time, and I think Tatiana Maslany is having a good time as well.
Yes.
I I still feel that there's just a weird aftertaste to all of Perkins's films. Like I don't think he nails. I think 90% of the movie he nails the tone.
Yeah.
But I do think like there's just moments in this movie, and one I loathe the fact that he puts himself in this movie.
I know that was
misstep.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like a victory lap on everyone loved long legs. Let me just toot my own horn here.
Right.
I don't understand the Elijah Wood part in this movie. It's not enough to ruin the film for me, but I just felt it was like really. I don't know. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that sequence.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like. So like to me, like all of his movies are hampered a little bit by like I don't think he makes all of the right choices, and I'm not sure he's ever going to have a turn in an A+ papers.
Sure, yeah.
He may just be a B- to a C+ director. I think this is better than a C+. But there's moments where you're like, oh yeah, you could have cut 5 minutes off of this movie.
Sure.
And okay. So, and the other, we can go into the details of this. The other thing that tonally doesn't really I think it's confusing, is you never really know. Like, a lot of this movie seems like it's knowing, right? That it's winking at the camera. That there's characters in this that realize the absurdity of it all. Like the priest, like the young priest at the funeral. That's the other thing in this movie that was just like, I don't get what you're going for here. Yeah. This seems like a Heathers type scene in a movie that's not really like Heathers. Like there's no social commentary here that a Catholic priest or whatever you're doing in here is teaching us all a lesson about like the futility of religion I get the entire premise of the movie, that this is like life and it's silly and stupid and our time will come when our time comes. But I think if we had just started off with Theo James rather than having the Adam Scott portion too, which is another one that was like really kind of bizarre to me too. Like it all comes like, this is why I was like, when I come back to this movie, once I get into it, and really once you get to the kids, I think, and aside from a few asides, it all really works because the gore really works, and I think it's a lot of fun. Like I think Osgood really knows how to make this kind of ratcheted up, because again, he's coming from like this, what he calls a pop culture take on Silence of the Lambs, but whatever, to to this film, which is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek, pseudo Final Destination-esque, take on life and death and the absurdity of it all. I get all of that.
Yeah.
I like all the moments where, especially as they get older, and it's Hal and what's the other other brother's name?
Bill.
Okay. So when Bill like puts on his old funeral, he like redoes his old funeral suit, but he still has that flame shirt to make it longer. There's moments like that I think are really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the deaths are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I think there's just moments in this movie that I'm just like, why did you make these choices? And I think that's going to haunt me for every Osgood Perkins film that ever exists. It's like, why did you make these choices?
Yeah. So this is, I think, one reason I like this better than you, and I agree with everything that you said, right? But I think that one, I so disliked Longlegs, and his other films, Blackcoat's Daughter and I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. These are films that were so kind of heavy and so sort of moody and atmospheric, but had no story, right? Or like the stories just didn't work.
Right.
This one, I think we know the King story or the Bachman story, right? And so like that, he doesn't have to worry so much about. And he can just kind of, I guess like that's why the tone like worked, because the whole thing never seemed to take itself too seriously, right? But all his other movies do. And so for me, this was kind of like a breath of fresh air, watching this kind of Perkins movie coming off of Longlegs, where I really wanted to like, and I was just like, fuck you, right? sorry, Osgood.
Right.
But I really wanted to like, but it like fell so flat for me where I was like, okay, this is at least fun. Where I feel like he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna have a good time and like not worry too much about the other stuff. And so I think that's kind of how I approach this too. I was like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing here, and I'm good with that, and I don't really care like about the rest, right? Because I mean, yeah.
And like I said, for the most part, I'm with you. And I think the last hour of this film is a lot of fun. Once we get to really, I mean, like, I'm okay with. I think the kid stuff obviously sets it up fairly well. I do think we take a long time to get there. It's like it takes an hour or it takes 30 minutes to get to the grown up pieces of it.
Yeah,
I think starting off with, I think the Elijah Wood piece it's one of those things that feels like Elijah Wood like wormed his way into this movie more than anything else.
Yeah.
Not to say I don't want to speak disparagingly of Elijah Wood, but I mean it feels like Elijah they maybe needed him to be a producer or something.
Really, doesn't it? I mean, it's just kind of like, why are we spending time here? We don't really need this. Like, this doesn't really.
And it's a joke that doesn't really pay off, right?
No.
You don't need him to be some sort of like parental guru when clearly he's not.
Right.
And like I mean, it just adds a layer to this movie that one, you don't ever and that's the other thing too, you don't ever revisit it.
So
right?
what if Elijah Wood's character had been killed by the monkey at some point?
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
I mean, like,
okay,
if you'd
right?
resolved that thread, yeah. But I mean, I think the funnier sequel to this is then to have this get into the wrong hands, right? Yeah. I do think, I mean, like where someone is actually utilizing this to create mass destruction in a sense. Yeah.
Well, we kind of get that at the end, right? Where like half the town is dead.
right. Which I think this movie ends really well. I think I think death on a pale horse coming through is really funny.
Yeah.
And then like looking so weary about like having to go in and take care of all this shit.
And I like that the other brother dies, right? And like when he does and as he does, right? During this like moment of reconciliation, he just gets his head blown off. I think stuff like that is really good, and I think that the fact that like none of the deaths are, other than Tatiana Maslany, none of the deaths are really mourned, right? They're funny, and like no one really cares. They just kind of keep going on like with their lives. Like, I mean, in Theo James, is he? So the good brother, is that Bill or Hal?
I think that's Hal. Hal's the good brother. Bill's the bad one.
So Theo James as Hal is this like anxious, sweaty, like always on edge character, and I think that works. I think that works really well too. That just gives then some of these moments more energy, right? As he's trying to like explain like why he doesn't want to see his son, but he can't. I mean, so I think there's a lot that works, and I think especially when I compare it to the other Perkins films, right? I enjoy it a lot more. So it's because of that. I'm probably not going to watch it ever again. But, when I sat in the theater and had my popcorn, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. This, I'm having a good time.
I've seen it a handful of times, and like I said, I continue to have the same problems with it as I go back to it. I mean, but again, there are moments where I get sucked back into it. I think the deaths are really fun. Yeah. They're not all like. They don't all turn into Final Destination deaths, which I think is good. Like, I mean, like there are some Rube Goldberg-esque deaths, but they're not all like that. I do think the kind of the surprise ones, where especially the one with the real estate agent and the shotgun that comes down, although you can see it coming from a mile away. And I feel like that's the interplay that I want more in this movie. Is like everyone should feel off, but the real estate agent like recognizing that Theo James was a good-looking guy and like kind of hitting on him in a sense. I felt like there were moments like that that I wanted more of. I liked the kid. So, for the most part, I bought into it. I just think there were just some sequences here that like really, I don't know. And I think to be fair, like coming from Long Legs and like you said, not liking it as much, I was in a mode of, all right, let me see how I can tear this fucking thing apart. Like, is it going to be good or is it going to be or is he gonna fuck up again? And I still think, again, this is not like this is a solid, B movie.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't necessarily know how many times I'm going to walk back to it, but like, would I sign up for the Monkey 2? Absolutely. Yeah, I'd go see Monkey 2.
Right.
No problem.
Right.
Why, especially if it was in different hands.
I'm still confused why everyone likes Longlegs so much. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna have long legs, if you will.
Good one. Yeah, no, I don't either.
And I don't think it's gonna be one that Perkins would ever go back to the well on that either, right? I don't think that this is something that I don't. I think a few years from now we'll forget that whole film existed. Yeah, I think. Longlegs, again, I think Longlegs had a ridiculously good promotional period, and it had the way that it was advertised and the way that it was marketed was phenomenal, and I think that carried over to people carrying over that fear of the marketing that was generated in the marketing over into the fear in the film. And I think, we've talked about this before, but I do think we give these films more credence than they deserve. I mean, even at The Black Coat's Daughter or The Pretty Girl That Lives, that those films aren't great, but a lot of times we'll walk away from prestige horror or folk horror and just say, well, I didn't get it. This has got to be better than what I think it is. It is, and it happens. It's not, and you can make the argument, and if people liked it, that's fine too. But I think this one is a lot more visceral, and it makes sense why it came out so quickly after Longlegs. And like I said, I just wish that there was some consistency, and I wish that Perkins could tone down his more negative tendencies. And, his ego. And I do think that, sticking to the theme of just people fucking die when they die, right? And that being you can't avoid it, even if there's a monkey or not. Like there's again, Elijah Wood, him putting himself in as this swinging uncle, like who gives a shit? I know. There's just moments like that. I'm like, why am I in this? Like, why is this pertinent to the script here? Why is this a threat? We get that you're creepy looking, dude. You only do that so there's no gravitas to the deaths. But I mean, at a certain point, there is a gravitas. They have affected Hal, right? I mean, these deaths have affected him, regardless of whether he was tied to these people or not. And it wasn't just his mom that was troubling him, right? And yes, that was the big one. But you can't walk away. You can't walk away from. Like it's weird that Bill is the one who's the more affected by Hal's death. Not Hal's death, but I mean by his uncle's death, in the sense that he doesn't want to take off his suit because he has to put it back on. He has again. To go if he keeps it on. Maybe no one else will die. Yeah. And those are the good tendencies that you should delve into, right? And stay away from. Like you already have enough bizarreness in your movie. You don't need to add these layers that don't make a whole lot of hell of a sense. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we'll see what he does next.
Yes. The long legs monkey crossover that we've all been waiting for.
Oh. How would he say mommy daddy to the drum beat?
His next film is already in post-production. It's called The Keeper. Or just called Keeper. It is the title is A Dark Trip from Austin Perkins. That's it. It's got Tatiana in it again, and then a bunch of people I don't know. Rossif Sutherland. Are you a fan of Rossif Sutherland's work?
Absolutely. I am a season ticket holder for Rossif.
Written by Nick Leopard, who wrote Dangerous Animals, which is the movie that's also so he's a new guy. So no, I don't know. Okay. But he's got one coming out later this year. So the guy is, if not prolific.
Yeah, I mean, well, so how many films has he done? Like all told?
Let's see. As my back he works. Let's see how many films he's done. He's acted, obviously. He's done 6. The Black Coat's Daughter, I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. Gretel and Hansel. He did a Twilight Zone episode, and then basically 5.
These 2, okay.
Long Legs and the Monkey.
So,
but since 2015, he's popped him out. I mean, he had 4 years between Gretel and Hansel.
Did you see that?
4 years between that and did I see that? I
with
think I did.
Sophia Lillis?
Yes, yeah.
As Greta. No. But I mean, I think kind of a maybe a trying attempt at like a feminist approach to this story, but I mean, it didn't work for me. But again, it's another one of those films that has that atmosphere and has that kind of like visual effect, but just doesn't really do anything else with it. So
right.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure he'll direct Scream 8 or whatever else is, So
yeah, that'll be great.
We'll see how Kevin does going back to the well with Scream 7 before we sign him off for Scream 8.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Okay. Well, let's get into Paris Window. Let's get into our first Amanda Kramer film. I'm excited to talk about her entire filmography. I think the more I have watched, I mean, so we just had a screening of Please Baby Please, her most recent. And the more times I watch that film, the more I like it, and the more I take away from it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to digging into these films, which I find so far to be more difficult than that film.
What, to be more difficult than which film?
Please Baby Please.
Oh yes, yeah. Please Baby Please being the most
accessible.
The most accessible one for sure. But I'm excited to dig into a filmmaker who is a legit like straight up 5s and 6s across the board in IMDb, which basically to me means that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
If you're bouncing all over the place, like that's fine. You'll have a hit here, and you'll have you'll have a downturn here. If you're consistently 5.5, you're confounding audiences.
Exactly,
because you're still getting films made, but no one really. So there's huge fans, and then there's people who have no idea what to do with you whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question for you about her, but let's get to the description of this film first.
Yeah.
So Paris Window.
You notice that you can't open your eyes. Have you noticed that you can't open your eyes? You have felt scared. You have felt betrayed. Uncertain.
Pulling.
There are two yous.
Pulling.
One you is full of fear.
Pulling.
He is anxious and tormented.
Pulling.
The other you is full of poise and calm.
Pulling.
He is ready for your life.
Pulling. Sleep!
Two siblings share an unhealthy, hermetic existence full of games and codes. All of it is suddenly threatened by the appearance of a doppelganger. Okay, so here's my question. Is Kramer a kind of heir, in a way, to like a David Lynch type filmmaker? And I think what I mean is like she has a similar approach, right, than Lynch. And I go ahead, I cut you off, and I want to hear this before.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think if you look at Please Baby Please and potentially Lady World, man, I think her stuff is so all over the place. Like this to me seems like so Paris. Like Please Baby Please, yes, I can see the Lynchian Blue Velvet type of that type of. Connection, but I also think there's a lot of waters in there as well. And so I think there's in addition to her own style, I think this feels to me like something that could have come out of Albert Birney's repertoire, right? This feels like Silvio or which again I understand. That's not the question you're asking because no one knows Albert Birney except for you, the people that came to Mystery Movie Minithons 6 and 7, or 7 and 8,
right.
which no offense, they have their fans, and they as well they should. This one doesn't read Lynchian to me as much as Please Baby Please does. I don't know how I feel about this one, or who I would compare this to. I guess. I mean, because I guess I really hadn't considered that question because I hadn't really looked at it from that frame before. I think where I see it really is maybe not so much thematically, but in sort of aesthetics, right? Because I think there's a lot of similarity in how they both use, or how they're interested in artifice, and how like they construct these kind of sets that. I mean, I know this is her apartment. Like they filmed in like her apartment at the time. But I mean, it looks like a set. It's made up to look. We're supposed to think it's a set, right? And you saw that a lot with, I think, the way that Lynch would kind of construct things, where they don't look real necessarily, and the way that things are blocked, and the way that people act, like the directing. It just reminded me a lot of some of his films, and even sort of like, domestic scenes in something like a Lost Highway, right? And not like the violent scenes, but these more kind of like innocuous, scenes with two people, right? What other films? Even a little bit of like Mulholland Drive, the way that it's shot and colored, right? It kind of like gives me that vibe. I don't think that she's interested in, the same kind of stuff that Lynch was. But even the fact that these twins have their own language, their own made up language, just the way they communicate, the games that they play, the weird food that they eat, all seems kind of, I'm not going to say Lynchian, even though I just said it. But it all seems kind of like of that world, or of that kind of similar, like shared aesthetic. Right. What was the film that we watched what was the film you gave me for Christmas to watch? That was the vignettes of people in different. I can't remember now. I can't pull the name of it. Roy
Anderson.
Yes,
yeah,
the Anderson's film.
Yeah,
this feels a lot like that. Though too.
Okay, yeah. I can get that vibe. I can get that vibe too. Yeah.
I think. Look. Obviously, there's absurdist humor here, and I think this idea of like, but I do feel like. I think that everything that Kramer comes to the table with, and I think maybe that's the reason that I think that maybe I don't equate her to Lynch as much, as I do think that she has something that she's trying to say here. I don't think that she's trying to confound. No. Just simply confound. And maybe I'm downplaying Lynch a bit, but I never saw Lynch as like a kind of a message filmmaker. And I don't think that, I'm not saying Kramer is either to that extent. She's not like, this is not some film where you're supposed to be like, I'm going to teach you something. Well,
she's not preachy.
Right? It's not that.
Right.
Right. But there are themes that are present here that I don't think were really heavily present in Lynch films. Maybe Blue Velvet to an extent of talking about like Americana and
Well, and Mulholland Drive was sort of the dark side of stardom and the dark side of Hollywood, but even also like Hollywood's kind of awesome too, and
right. But I think that as this movie ends, right, and Julian is talking to Sonny, and like she's got two men essentially, right, that are both trying to control her in different ways, and as Julian's like talking to her after she's done the performance, right, which is a brilliant piece of acting,
it really is.
Just is like confounding how good it is, and it's so disappointing that it won't be seen by more people.
I know.
Because this movie, look, it's as much as we talk about this, it's perfectly okay to not like this film or not get it or not get in vibe with it, right? I can see that it, and again, this is why I think I like it so much, is that it's just like I can see, this is going to be polarizing. I can see people turning it off in the first 5 minutes, going, "This is just not going to be for me." But as Julian comes to it just continually starts to unravel, and to devalue the women in his life. And he's talking to Sonny, and he's like, he has my face.
Yeah,
it's the exact face. Yeah. Like, and it's the same actor playing it, which I think is brilliant. Yeah. They don't look. I mean, like the way that they've made each other up, but they don't look alike at all. Like Noel David Taylor is great in this.
Yeah. That mustache is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. But he's just like, you don't need this person. I'm already here. We're the same person. And Sonny kind of trying to figure all of that out. This whole, like, I know there's a bunch of different ways you can take this film, but this is like, but Kramer's, and I think Kramer does this really well in Please Baby Please as well, but this take on masculine ego and masculine fragility, like, is brilliant. And the way that it deconstructs and the way that Julian interacts with all the women in his life, even though in this compartmentalized, completely encapsulated life where he's the only fucking thing that matters, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I love this idea of, like, which is why I think this movie needs to be kind of poured over and watched over and over again. Is like, you get this sense of this white guy who is beholden to the woman in his life, like, and you feel like they've had some sort of generational trauma, right? Because they keep talking about their mother.
Yeah.
But he is trying to control his sister, because she's the only one who works, right?
Right.
He never goes outside of this apartment, and he's manipulating her. And this idea that the whole entire world revolves around him. He doesn't like it when she changes things around, and he also feels threatened when she finds someone outside of his bubble. I think this is an amazing piece of work.
Oh yeah.
And I just feel like the fact that it was put together in a single apartment for the most part.
Right. This
idea of him being confounded but being intrigued also by this kind of like new age television therapy that's ongoing, I think is brilliant as well. There's just so much that's so good about this movie, and it's crazy that, like, again, no one's gonna watch this,
dude. I know, and so
there's 60 reviews on IMDb, like starred reviews. There's one actual user review. There's 2 critics reviews. That's fucking criminal.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to find like anything about this film. I mean, other than like this played at the Women's Texas Film Festival, I think, where it won
2018
won like top prize or something. I mean, or it did like really well. But like that's kind of it. That's it, right? And you can watch it at home, like with commercials on like Pluto TV, right? I mean, like it's which is not the ideal way to watch this film, with commercials.
No,
because you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, some Jardians commercial coming up talking about controlling A1C,
right, and you're like,
which, by the way, not to get too far off topic, but you've seen that commercial, right? Are familiar with that medicine?
Sure.
Like, it basically warns you of having an exploding taint.
Yeah,
like one of the.
But I mean, like, this is the thing. This is the like ridiculous thing about all of these like medical commercials, right? Is they're like, hey, this should help you with this, but also it might kill you. It might literally kill you.
Right. You will have fire coming out of your asshole.
You
like
may
literal fire.
You may catch the death from taking this pill.
But yes, I mean, like, it's. And look, like I said, I don't expect this movie to be a blockbuster, right? I don't expect this movie to, but I do feel like it's like, how do you get this in front of people? How do you get this in front of people that need to see it, who would be intrigued by it? And maybe Please Baby Please and the other films that she's doing will have people go back and look at her filmography. And hell, who maybe knows, maybe the wild popularity of this podcast will bring a new audience to Paris.
I mean, you would think. You would think.
But one, from the performances alone, I feel like this deserves way more recognition.
Yeah.
Sophie Cargman, I guess I hope I'm saying that name correctly, who plays Sunny.
Yeah.
Is like, I mean, like, there's a moment in this film where like her new boyfriend or outside boyfriend is trying to encourage her to sing and to perform, and they brings all of these people over to their apartment and kind of puts a performance on her. And it's this most like, and I've heard Kramer talk about this, about it's not, you know, it wasn't like they just, it was like in the script, it was just Sunny performs.
Yeah.
Sunny does a performance. And that was all Sophie's like doing. And it's just like, and it's one of those things where like, I can only imagine what it was like to be in the moment over like 10 people in the room filming this and like watching her do this. And it's, you know, it's lit really well.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like blown away by like the absurdity of what she pulls off. I mean, just from the genius moments of like Julian making them dinner, and it's just mashed potatoes and peas, and then when the new boyfriend comes over and it's all just candy.
It's like, yeah, and what I love is like, it's just a recipe I found somewhere, and it's like circus peanuts and gummy worms. It's a recipe,
like the worst candy ever.
And he's giving this like soliloquy about, you know, making dinner, and hey, Julian, I know you make dinner every night, and I hope that, you know, you don't mind that, you know, I hope that you sort of, you know, take this as a gift and me giving you like a night, and there's like whole long spiel, right? and then yes, he brings these plates of like, yeah, the worst candy ever. I mean, like candy corn and just all this shit. But that's where that like absurdist humor comes in, because everyone just plays it straight, which I love. There's like no question really, right? It's like, what is this? It's a recipe I found somewhere. It's like, oh, okay. And I think this movie looks great as well. I mean, like you said, you talked about how it was lit, but I think it looks incredible, right? And it was Kramer wrote that essay, I forget when, but for Talk House, that was like, everything looks so fucking ugly, right? Talking about like the state of movies and how things look. Right. So, I think this looks incredible. And I think all of the performances are just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Even the makeup, like when I mean, I you know, there's moments too, like that like it, you know, Sophie is so like childlike when she's like making out with herself in the mirror and she doesn't know how to kiss. She's just running her face back and forth. And I love the moment at the end too, when like basically Julian's convinced her to stay, or just and like she starts to like move in for a kiss on him. And he like kind of freaks out of like, what have I done? I think there's so many layers to this movie. And like, I think if you can get over the weird aesthetic of it all, I think it's really, really rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, I like the weird aesthetic. I mean, so yeah, like, and I'm not saying you don't, but it's like if you can embrace the weird aesthetic, right? Which I hope you can, because that that's a better way to phrase it. Not to get over it, but to embrace it, because you're right. It absolutely is. It's necessary. Yeah. And if you can basically kind of let yourself go with it, I think it's. But I feel the same way of something like Silvio as well. It's like it requires something of you, and those are the types of movies that I like the most anyway. Is that you have to kind of have to dig in and find yourself in this film, and I think if you do, there's something really wonderful here. It's just, again, one of those things. You know, how do you get people to actually? Yeah, to see I don't know. I watched it twice, and on the second viewing, realized how much I missed the first time. Right. But I'm just like, I'm gonna have to watch this like 4 more times to really like, I think, fully wrap my head around. And I don't mean like necessarily wrap my head around it and intellectually understand it, because I don't care. I mean, you know, I can dig into this in a number of different ways, but I mean, like, I think a film like this, I don't always feel like I need to, right? Because I'm so kind of into the vibe and the aesthetic and like what's going on just on screen, that's enough to really carry me through. And I mean, I do think, and I think this film is saying like quite a bit about different kinds of relationships, right? I mean, the fact that we have one woman being controlled in different ways by 2 men who are the same person, you know, I think there's probably a lot there, right? The way Julian talks to other women, right? Those bags look heavy. You should take the help. your back's going to feel like shit later, right? I mean, but I think that is a fucking brilliant, like, I think it's a brilliant commentary on men like that, right? Like, why don't you smile more? I'm just trying to help you, right? I just want to carry your groceries. Look at me, and I'm being a good guy. And she's just like, get away from me, right? But I think that scene alone, right? I mean, tells us a lot about maybe what Kramer's thinking about patriarchy and sort of like these types of men, and maybe Julian's an incel. I don't know, but like that kind of.
Well, and this idea that he, equates basically women all being the same, right? I mean, like, and I know that that she was on the television show that he was watching, but I mean, like, she also denied that she was on it, right? I mean, so this idea of like, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not this person that you've seen on TV. I'm not this person
until
that
later
made up in your head, right? Which I think is a cool mindfuck though, then too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
like I'm not this kind of like you're making me out to be this kind of woman, and I'm not that, right? Which again, I think is a very telling thing from Kramer about how men see women, right? Yeah, well, I've built you up at this vision, so you must be this kind of thing. Like, why aren't you like that?
I love the line. I don't make enough decisions to have any regrets.
Dude, it's so fucking good. I had that written down. It's so fucking good. It's so good. I don't make enough decisions to have regrets. It's one of the best lines I think I've ever heard. You're just like, holy shit, yeah, okay. So good.
Yeah, if you are interested in seeing this, it's only included. Like, if you obviously it's on Plex TV. I think.
Oh,
where
Plex.
You can watch
I'm
it for
sorry.
free.
Yeah, I said Pluto.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's
Pluto Plex. I mean, like,
but it's also included on the
Lady
World Blu-ray, which is available via Vinegar Syndrome or Yellow Veil Pictures. It's an additional feature on Lady World, which we'll talk about next week, but or next time. I do wish there was more about this. I'd love to sit down and to talk to her about this one movie, because I think it is like, it's such a assured debut film, right? It is such a like, it doesn't feel like a first time. I mean, I know that she's an artist, right? She's done other things. This is not her only avenue to express herself. But I'm like, it's to be able to put this together, to be able to have that type of vision, to direct this group of people like this, I think is really outstanding. Yeah. And like they said, to have to cultivate a look like this. And when we get to Lady World and even Please Baby Please, they're all distinctive, right? Yep. I mean, there's not like this is not a Wes Anderson type of or even a Bernie type of thing, where like, you can this is this director's calling card. Just the minimalist aesthetic of the apartment, utilizing the TV on cinder blocks and like the look and feel of the kind of the late night television self-help. Something that really made me laugh, and I don't know why, it just struck me, but her ponytail being, the ladies, the therapist online, her therapist, her ponytail being stuck in her collar or whatever, like I don't forget we call it, just,
it's almost like a little scarf.
Right. Yeah. Like a headband that she's got pulled around her neck, essentially.
It's great.
I thought that was really funny.
It's great, and
I love that. I love that too. I love how those things come back, and I'm sure there's more. And again, one of the things I want to watch again is those 4 questions about how do you feel about your problem? How do you feel the world feels about your problem? I know I'm getting them wrong, but like with those 4 questions, I think, and that coming back, repeating them over and over again. I do think there's a lot to be said about like how masculinity is trying to find itself in this moment. Yeah. And trying to redefine itself, and then still trying to hold on to this control.
But also, I think it applies to Sunny too, right?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And how she's trying to, like, because the whole idea there, right, is to gain. You do those 3 questions, and then in the 4th one, you've got a new perspective. And so, I mean, you see Sunny change, throughout the film. With, I mean, I think especially like the different hair, the different makeup. Right, she stops wearing glasses, but she's trying to find like her own like new perspective in this new man, right? Which again, yes, is connected to that masculinity, but it's how are those 2 things like then working together right, so that both sides find some kind of new new way of looking at this, right? One is just more nefarious than the other.
Right. And she starts to needle Julian as well as she starts to learn more and more about come into her own agency about how he doesn't realize how good looking he is, and all of those moments to kind of like make Julian jealous essentially, or just to put him in his place and let him know that he's not the center of the universe, right? And that it's only really when she threatens to like quit her job, right? Is that when he starts to like to really start to worry and start to like kind of try to deconstruct this new world that she's put together.
Right. That's not the rules. That's not the rules. So one of the things that I think is really impressive from this first time, or this being her first film, is the voice that she establishes. Right, the voice she establishes in this kind of like the cinematic grammar and language that she develops in this film, and again, I think a baseline aesthetics, because I do think that in her other films they don't all look the same, but it's kind of like if you've seen enough of her films, you're like, okay, I see like how like this approach fits here, right? Or how that kind of baseline aesthetics I think rolls across all of her stuff. So I mean that's what not to say like, oh, this doesn't feel like her first time filmmaker. I think for me, it's that, right? It's that why it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. So that the Paris window's an actual therapy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then often paired with like hypnodrama or hypnotism, which at the end, right, put me to sleep. That it doesn't work, right, on the TV, which I thought was, kind of a nice way to lead us toward the ending too.
Yeah, like I said, I think you could watch this 100 different times.
Oh my God.
In
100 different
ways. Again, once we get to because once you get to the end too, like part of the therapy, there's another white man on the screen that says, that if this has feelings, then a book has feelings, or a table has. Like, it's this whataboutism that is also present.
Yeah.
God damn. I mean, like, it's to put it all together and to successfully pull it off, I think is without coming across as direct as one would normally come across, like in these types of films, right, where you just you hammer this shit home.
Oh, right.
I think there's I think like this is a film, like if you just sat with it, I think the absurdity of it all like really starts to make itself apparent in how it translates, right? I mean, how it translates to the absurdity of where we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I really like it. I like her. I think she's amazing. And I'm excited to get into the rest of these films. So that's what you all have to look forward to.
Lucky you.
I know. And
lucky us.
Well, right. I mean, like, yeah, good for you, but actually just good for us, right? Guess what we get to do.
We've got a busy month coming
Fucking up. Shit, man. I know. We've got Diff at the end of April. We've got a couple more screenings. Well, no, 3 more screenings in April, right?
Yeah.
And then May is jam-packed.
Once we hit July, we're going to be exhausted by the time July and August.
I'm already exhausted. I just like my baseline is exhausted.
Right.
I wake up and I need a nap. I mean, like, So, no, but it'll be good. It'll be good. So, and again, like this is all for the benefit of you, listener.
We're bringing movies to the people.
That's because
that's where we're bringing peoples together.
That's where they belong. Did you see that 3 of the 6 major motion picture studios are in favor of a 45-day theatrical window?
No, I didn't see that.
Well, no, I'm telling you. So no. There was, and I think a lot of this conversation happened at CinemaCon that's going on.
Yeah. We need to get invited to that.
I know. You're right. We do. We'll work on that. But I think a lot of those conversations about like, look, these films need to be in theaters longer, and it looks like the majority of people agree. So hopefully that'll happen.
I do think so. So what's it now? I mean, guys, there's not really a definitive
right.
time.
I mean, for example, Anora was in theaters for 71 days.
Sure.
But
okay.
like you have, Black Bag just hit streaming, right? So there was like 3 weeks.
So probably 21 days. Yeah.
So you've got, what theaters are saying is like we really want that 45 days, right? We really want.
That's why I went and. That's why I went and tried to. I tried to catch Novocaine last night because I was like, I want to see it on the big screen, and I was like, and I was afraid it was going to disappear, and it was already disappearing. I mean, it was hard to find a timing for it. I honestly think 45. I would have bargained for 60. I think 60 is the right move to get people to go back to the theater if they really want to see something. But yeah, so good. I guess it's better than. But I don't know what the rule is actually going to be, right? I mean, like, is our theaters going to not show Black Bag if it hits streaming 3 weeks later?
So
because I think a lot of that's going to be on the theaters of pulling this stuff out, right?
Yes.
I mean, theaters are understaffing their locations, right? I mean, they're especially like things like Alamo Drafthouse. I mean, like you see films that are sold out when it's really just they don't have the capacity to manage. Now, granted, that doesn't hold for AMC per se because like especially if they're not like the dine-in theaters in AMC. But I don't really know. Like, I've not ever done a dig on AMC's like numbers in regards to is that bringing them? I mean, they're not. Are they being treated like restaurants? Are they? I mean, like, is that just all prepackaged crap, right? I mean, I've never eaten it at AMC.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I don't like to really eat at the theaters anyway. I want popcorn and candy. I don't need to sit there and eat like a double cheeseburger. I mean.
I think when the Alamo first got to DFW, I did it a few times just because it was the novelty of it all.
Sure,
and like if I'm going, especially if I'm going for like a multiple feature.
Well,
sure. Right,
Yeah,
that's a different story. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't need to sit down and not see my food and like
right. And I don't need to. I mean, look, I'm glad that the guys at Alamo come by and like grab my order card when I need more popcorn or like more club soda.
Right.
But also like I don't really want to see you. Right. And like nothing against them. That's not about them, right? But so like I'm not going to order food as well. I'm not going to have someone come over and go, here's your double cheeseburger, sir. I got you, and these are the loaded fries. I'm like just like move, buddy. Like like
I want to be like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. It's like bring me a Diet Dr. Pepper or a Coke Zero every 15 minutes until I get to pee.
yeah,
and then bring one every 20 minutes. Like that's, and then bring me a popcorn. Like yeah. It's But I do know that. I mean, obviously there are people that enjoy it, and if that brings in different people and it brings in more money, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think I kind of forget where I was going with all of that, except that like, I guess the whole point of not being able to sell out theaters because you can't get more butts in the seats because you don't have enough people to deliver food if they were to deliver food.
Right.
But for AMC, like, I just wonder. I guess my point is that you couldn't find Black Bag if you wanted to see it in the theater right now, right? And Novocaine, which has been out I think for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, which I'm assuming will hit streaming sooner rather than later. It just seems like you can't find movies after a certain period of time either, and I'm not sure exactly why that is, especially because it seems like a sunk cost for a lot of these theaters. Like it doesn't matter if you run it or not, right? I mean,
right.
And so I don't know. Like I mean, I'm sure there's somebody smarter than me who's done the puzzle pieces moving around to say you got to have this here, this here, this here. But like, if it's just going to be a thing where Novocaine plays at one theater 40 miles away from me for another 30 days before it hits streaming.
Right.
What's
the
benefit
point?
Is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's not getting people to see Novocaine. That's not. You're not giving anybody I really wanted to see Novocaine. I want to get out to a theater to see it, but I can't because it's not showing anywhere 2 weeks after it's out already.
Right.
Like so, if you're just delaying the release between streaming and yeah, then you're just keeping people from seeing movies, which I think is the actual, the opposite of the point, right?
Yeah. One of the interesting things around this conversation that I did here was just, really, taking into consideration that what we're doing is training people not to go to the theater. Like at this point, right? We're saying, hey, it's okay. In a couple weeks, you'll be able to watch it at home, right? And so I think anything we can do to get away from that is probably beneficial, right? Because,
but I think you and I've said this before. Is that, I know. What we really need. But the thing is, what really will get people into the theaters is not going to be to have them spend more money while they're there. Is to make their is to get them this experience to be cheaper.
Right.
I mean, like what you've done, and the reason people wait to see it at home is not because kids talk or the theater has shitty projection or people. It's because expensive. That's been the case. That's been the case forever. People have sucked forever, right? Right. I mean, like, yes, it becomes easier to be an asshole if you got a cell phone. But I can tell you, I have not been in a theater where the experience has been bad in a really like a long time. Yeah. Right. I mean, like, and I think the way that the theaters are situated nowadays, like you're separated so far away from people. Like I find it pretty rare, to be honest, to be bothered. To be bothered, yeah. Now, granted, that's the theaters that I'm going to. I get that as well, and the times that I'm going. But I mean, people aren't going because it's $100 for a family to go. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Right. And that's got to be like, and it's inexplicable, right? Because if you go to someplace like AMC Clear Fork, like. If the only time that I can see something is I don't necessarily give a shit about seeing things always in Dolby, but I also don't want to spend $17 to spend on tickets to see something in Dolby that I don't give a shit if it's in Dolby or not. Right. And like it's the same scam that they've been trying to pull since they did the 3D and the faux IMAX shit, right? Mm-hmm. Which these not really IMAX screens. We're going to charge IMAX prices. Yep. These poorly rendered 3D, retrofits of films. We're going to charge you more for these, and they were all lackluster experiences. Like, why does the Dolby? I mean, is it? I'm not paying for your fucking equipment, right? Like, right. I don't need this. Am I paying for? Look, it's not D-Box, right? It's not 4D theaters, right. It's not that significantly better. Go fuck yourself.
I don't care about any of that. I mean, to be honest, right? Like I don't.
It's not significantly different,
right. I have never, and I've seen enough films in the Dolby theater, right, where I have not been significantly blown away by anything.
Yeah, my seat it may be louder, but hell, you can turn the movie up in another one as well. Like, I mean, it doesn't like, and a lot of times there's nothing out that deserves that type of treatment. That's the other thing, right? I mean, right. Does Snow White really deserve the Dolby treatment?
I mean, what I want to see things on fucking film, right? I want to see Oppenheimer on 70 millimeter. I mean, I want to see whatever. Those are the things that I would pay premium for, right? Right. Yeah. That's what I want, right? Give me that, and I'll give you $17. But I just don't care. I'm like, yes, that black looks blacker, but you're going to turn off the lights, and I'm going to be fine, right? I mean, like,
right.
So,
but yeah. So I mean, they have to do something to make this cheaper. And or they're just gonna go away. Yeah, I mean, because again, you can only squeeze. Like, here's the thing: is that movie theaters need to be a place that people go to at least, if not weekly, twice a month, right? Yeah. I mean, it needs to be. You need to have people coming in. It needs to be a destination. It needs to be a third place for people. You've already built up all these places that exist where they have bars there and they have places where people can hang out. They're already situated in places where people can hang out. They're not standalone theaters for the most part. And even if they are, they have places that people can hang out afterwards. Right. You want people in those places. You can't just continually squeeze more money out of them if you want them to come over and over again. And yes, the passes are fine, but if you can do the AMC pass where people can spend $20 a month to see 4 movies, and I know I'm just generalizing there, then you can make the movies cost $5 for everybody, right? And that's the thing, is that, like, you know, the AMC pass is fine for individual moviegoers, but it sucks if you're a family. Like, I mean, you have to have the AMC pass for everybody, for every fucking kid you've got. It's not just, I mean, so like there's things that you can do, but just simply make the tickets cheaper. Just make the tickets cheaper. You don't even have to make the popcorn and drinks cheaper.
Right.
But I mean, you should, but you don't have to.
Right.
And you know, it's simply corporate and studio greed that won't allow this to do this. Yeah. If I was at CinemaCon and if I was a theater owner, I'd be like, hey, here's a thought. Why don't you cut your fucking percentage?
Yep.
Like, why am I giving you 90% of the take? Like, let's figure that out before we figure out windows of time to go. You know, and again, I know that the reason that you're conceding this at all is because you know, probably streaming is becoming less and less lucrative as well as it's becoming more and more you know, diversified in regards to where you can find shit, right? But again, make you want people to go back to the
cinema
theaters.
great again, Jason.
Yeah, MCGA, McGah.
It's Irish.
Yeah. But alas,
anyway,
I mean, like corporate greed is going to be corporate greed.
Apparently, you don't understand capitalism. So
I don't.
As anyone who is listening to this podcast would know.
And with that, I'll just keep screaming internally.
Yeah. Well, right. And shouting at the clouds. Okay. Well, you know, next time we're going to get into more Amanda Kramer and probably more rants about similar things, if not. The same thing about theaters again. So you have that to look forward to. And Jason, is there anything else we need to get to?
Nah, I think we've talked about it all. I'm sure someone will die between now and next week, and then we can talk about their filmography.
Right. I mean, we are in that season. We are in dying season. So yeah. So
and there'll be new movies for us to talk about, and movies that are somewhat obscure that we can talk about as well. Yeah. So yeah, we'll find something else to
absolutely
to chit-chat about.
We always do. We always do. But until then, thank you all for listening.
And you know what to do. Keep screaming.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,